Welcome back everybody to another episode of the GC Informer. I am Snowy, otherwise known as Count Fracula, bringing you a look at Death Stranding. Oh boy. In the last hour, well, as I'm recording this, we have had a reveal of both the Death Stranding's, more of Death Stranding's gameplay, plot, and its release date. And I'm still confused as fuck about Death Stranding. I don't know what to say about it, because it's fucking weird. I'll try and do my best to digest all of this for you though. The release date for the game is going to be November the 9th. If I've got that wrong, I'll just flash it up on screen to correct myself. But November 9th is going to be the release date. We finally actually know that, and it's going to be this year. So, yeah, apparently it's a lot closer to completion than I thought it was. And we know a bit more about the gameplay and the... Do you know what? I was about to say we know a bit more about the story, but I'll get onto that. To be honest, I'll get onto that. Gameplay-wise, though, seems to be... Well, it is an open-world survival-y type game set in a post-apocalyptic world. Sounds common as fuck, doesn't it? But this still looks a little bit less than common. The gameplay is going to be a cross between... It's not a full shooter. It's also not going to be a full melee combat. They're crossing between the two. The melee combat engine they showed off does look quite visceral and pretty decent, actually. There's quite a variety of, things that you can do in the melee combat. You can hit people just on yourself. You've got martial arts. You can also hit people with a briefcase that you're carrying that seems like some sort of item but also doesn't. Might be important, might not be. In the bit of the trailer where you actually hit someone with a briefcase, the other person also drops a briefcase. Like it's a big hunky briefcase, so I don't know if that's an important item, or if it's just a melee weapon. A lot of this is going to be I don't know if, by the way, just so you're aware, because this is a lot to unpack. Shooting wise though, everything seems pretty bog standard. You'll have, it's a simple third person shooter. You got your iron sights, aim for a little bit better aim, and you've got an ammo counter on the screen and assault rifles. We know that much. So there's shooting in a video game. Shock horror. Now, let's get back on though to the main chunk of this. This is going to be about the story, because this game is still very much being touted as a story-focused, very heavily narrative-driven game. And despite the fact it's an open world, that's very much what it seems to be selling itself on. So hopefully that's going to be implemented well. A lot of open world games can sometimes have their stories spread out a bit too paper thin over the map, usually to pad it with side missions and loads of other stuff, but hopefully this doesn't do that. But from what I can work out with the story, there are things called, I think they were called void babies. Again, if I make any mistakes in this, I will correct myself later, because again, a lot to unpack. So there are these things called void babies, and they, for some reason, help you see dead people. Okay. The dead people seem to be what has caused society to fall apart. America has indeed fallen apart, and Norman Reedus doesn't care that America has fallen apart. He just wants to survive. He cares only for himself and maybe his void baby, and maybe the other people who's around him. But not for America. In the fallout, though, of America collapsing, there's a group of... They're called the demons, I believe. Like demons, and they have supernatural powers, and one of them wears a mask under a mask and licks a lady, and they seem to just be sort of your standard... Well, not your standard, standard by Hideo Kojima standards, terrorist organisation who are just wreaking havoc in a society that has fallen apart and cannot cope with their existence. But we also know that this terrorist organisation, are more fearful of the dead people, like the void people, or whatever they're referred to. Again, I'll flash on the screen. And the void people seem to be echoes of dead people that sometimes are incorporeal and can't be touched, and sometimes they can. People can't sense the dead people, they just seem to be attacked by them, and obviously maybe they don't see them coming or they can't do anything about it. But when you have a void baby, maybe they can do something about it and see them, but then they're more visible to the dead people. This reminds me of the meme of what's his face with all the dots looking mad. I can't remember his name. You know what I mean, I'll put it on screen. Oh my god, it's so confusing. Are all babies void babies, or is it just certain ones? Is it like fetuses that have not developed properly or developed at fault? It's really not clear. Is Norman Reedus' character an ex-void baby? Because it kind of implies it in the trailer because of the way that, you know, the whole game is centered around Norman Reedus' character and you're playing as him throughout the game, but in the start of the trailer, you're in like a baby tank and you're like Mads Mikkelsen's character is talking to you. So are you Norman Reedus' like past self in that? Every single question that this trailer answered leaves me with about 5 more. But the most Hideo Kojima moment of this whole entire trailer was during the sort of character, you know, cast and character reveals. So they're going through all these people they have, and you know, a couple of them have sort of what look like code names, and one of those code names is Die Hardman. Die Hardman. I mean, oh, Hideo Kojima, I mean, what are you doing, man? Still, as much as I can sort of mock it and look at it and go, what the fuck, I can look at it and at least say that it looks competent. The storyline may be utterly incomprehensible at the moment, and it may still be utterly incomprehensible at the time of release, but I can look at the game at least and go, yes, that does look pretty competent, and I don't think it's going to be a bad game by any stretch. I feel like it's going to be very much like an MGS game when it comes to pretty much everything. You know, gameplay is going to be solid, but the plot is going to be a bit all over the place, and it's going to take like a wiki and about 6 playthroughs to even try and understand it. So yeah, that's all we understand at the moment. That's all I understand, certainly at the moment, and expect maybe answers on the 9th of November. Anyway, let's wrap up the show because my brain hurts. That brings us to the end of this episode of the GC Informer. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like, subscribe, and share whatever you fancy. Our social links are in the description. Stay tuned tomorrow, though, for a Pokemon-themed special about all the announcements that came out today. But stay tuned to GameCast as well for news, reviews, podcasts, lots of great gaming content, and I will see you soon for something else.